Hello and welcome to Michi Designs. So in today's tutorial we're going to learn how to sew this corset blouse. So if you haven't watched the pattern drafting of this dress, please check my description box. I added the link there. So from the previous video we drafted this pattern, and this is the front pattern for our corset dress, a corset blouse. So we have the front pattern here, and with the yoke, it has a yoke. Then this is the back pattern. There's a little bit of change in this back pattern. The yoke from the pattern drafting we did is a high yoke with a zipper, but the clients wanted a change, so we changed the yoke. We changed the upper part of the yoke. You can see the line I drew from. I came down by 1 inch from the neckline, and then I made a curve to the dart point where that yoke stops at the dart point. So I'm cutting it out. I'm cutting out the excess there, so there'll be no zipper on the yoke. Now we're just going to have a button loop at the upper part of the neckline, about 2 button loops there, and then we'll attach our yoke to the back bodice. So let's get started with the main class now. So the next thing is to go and cut out. We use these patterns and to cut out the fabric. I'm going to place it on my fabric and cut all of them out now for you to see. This is the shape of the back will take by the time we cut it out, cut on fold, and then you'll see the shape. I've already cut out the fabric, the patterns. Please make sure you label all your patterns so that you don't mix them up. You can see I labeled them appropriately. So I'm going to iron hair stain, or I use the paper stay to iron both the main fabric and the lining. I cut out the lining too. I use the doll face fabric for my lining, so I cut out the same shape for my lining. This is the breast cup I'm going to use for this dress. I use the bra cup size 41. If you watched my other pattern drafting, so you will see where I told you how you can choose a perfect bra cup size there. Please go back and watch it. So I'm joining the cups together now. I'm joining the cups together. Please make sure you label your cups so that you don't mix them up too. So you don't throw away your patterns, please, when you cut, so that you can use the patterns to know which cup joins to which one. That way you have a perfect corset bra cup. So now I'm sewing the cups together. As you can see, I'm sewing the cups together. Before I can attach the bra cup to them. This is a detailed video. Now I'm joining the side front and the center front together. Joining them together. I added 1 inch sewing allowance to join this dart together. The reason why I did so is because I'm going to add my boning channel. Normally I'm supposed to add 1/2 inch sewing allowance to join them back together, the pieces together, but I'm going to use the seam allowance to add my boning channel. That's why I made it 1 inch. So now I'm done joining the side and front together. I'm going to sew my bra cup to the cup now. I'm pinning it round. Make sure you drag it well so that it will lay flat. The cup will lay flat in front. So I'm taking my time to pin it, and make sure I'm pinning, I'm dragging the cup. I'm pressing the cup inside the fabric to make sure there is no fold. The fabric doesn't fold, the cup doesn't fold. Everything is tightly fitted inside the cup. The bra cup fits tightly on it. So I'm sewing it together. There's a 1/4 inch allowance on this bra cup. That's where you sew. You don't sew inside the bra cup, please. There's a sewing allowance added to it, like a 1/4 inch. So you sew on that 1/4 inch sewing allowance to your cup. You can see how neat and flat it looks. You can see how beautiful it looks. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to I'm going to sew my boning channels. You know, I told you I already ironed this seam allowance flat, so I'm going to sew. I told you I made it 1 inch so I can use it as my boning channel. So I'm going to sew. I'm sewing the boning channels right now. I'll sew all the channels where I will attach my bone before I will fix the back up to the dress. I'm also going to attach a boning channel at the center of this dress. You know where you have that cleavage, that your cleavage depth is. I'm attaching there. There's no seam there, so I cut a piece of fabric, the door face fabric, in a rectangular form, and then I pinned it straight on that center part of the dress. I'm going to run a double stitch on it. I'm going to run 2 stitches on it rather, on both sides of the channel, so I can pass my boning through it. I've already run one side. I'm running the second side now. I'm running a stitch on the second side of the fabric. I don't want to fix my boning channels in front, so I want it to be hidden inside the dress. That's why I'm attaching it at the back of this. This is the main bodice. It's not the lining. I'm sewing it on the main fabric. So I'm done sewing the channels. Now I'm going to sew the breast cup to the bodice. So you make sure that the dart on the breast cup matches the dart on your bodice. You see how I'm placing it? Dart to dart. That's where I'm going to sew. So you start from that middle to sew to one end. Make sure your breast cup you place them appropriately. Let them face on the side that they're supposed to face. That's why you actually need to keep your pattern, so that you know the shape that's supposed to be on the armhole side and the one that's supposed to face the center. So I'm not sewing the 2 breast cups now. I want to attach the yoke, the front yoke. So I'm going to pin it. I'm going to pin this yoke on the dress now. I'll start from the center where that cleavage is. I'll pin there first, and then I'll take it up and pin to the side seam. I'll pin it to both sides, and then I'll start sewing from that center to one side first. After that, I'll sew on the other side. So I'm done sewing the yoke to the dress now. I'm done sewing the yoke to the dress. So the next thing is to sew my lining to it. I already sewed the lining, joined the lining together the same way I joined the main fabric. The only difference here is that I'm not adding breast cup to the lining, so I'm just going to use it to turn the main fabric. As you can see, the lining is the same way I made the main fabric. So I'll just place it front to front, pressing the yoke inside. The yoke will be inside while I pin the lining to the main dress. So after pinning, I'll go and sew it. So I'm done pinning. I'm sewing it now. Please, as you're sewing, make sure you're dragging that net out from the stitch line, so you don't go and sew on it mistakenly. It's very important. Make sure as you're sewing, you'll be dragging the net under so it doesn't squeeze inside the stitch. So I'm done sewing the lining to it. I'm just turning it to see how flat it looks. So I'm going to top stitch. I'm going to top stitch towards the lining now. I'm going to open up the rest of this side towards the lining. Then after doing that, I will now put in my boning channels. I'm now putting my bones before I will turn the remaining part of the dress with the lining. As you can see, I'm inserting the bones inside. I taped the end of the bone so it doesn't pierce the skin, doesn't scratch the body. So I'm done putting the bodice now. I'm now going to turn it with the lining. I'm going to stitch the lining around. I'll start from the bottom. Make sure that you leave half an inch for your sewing. I cut the bone. I cut it. I made sure the bones do not get to the end of that, the hem of that fabric. So I left like half an inch to join the down with the lining. So I'm going to join the sides. Then I'm going to leave an opening where I will turn out the whole dress out. So the other side now, I'm going to leave like 4 inches where I'm going to turn out the dress. You know, we're closing everywhere, every part of this dress. So I'm going to leave like 4 inches where I'm going to turn it out. So I'm losing about 4 inches there where I'm going to be turning it out. After I'll close it up when I finish turning it. So I'm going to turn it out now. You can see that place I left open, unsewn. So I'm turning it out from there. I finished turning it out, so you can see how beautiful it looks. It looks neat both inside and outside. So that the place I turned out, I'm going to just use my hemming gum to neatly iron it. It will glue that place back. You will not even see any, you will not even know that place was open before. You can see how beautiful both front and back. I've already glued that place, that open place, and then I ironed it. Then the back now, we're going to join the back bodice. So I also left 1 inch sewing allowance to join the back bodice together, so I can also insert my boning there and create my boning channel there. So I'm stitching the channels down now. I'm inserting bone on only one side of this channel, unlike the front that I inserted on both sides of the seam. The back, I'm only using one channel for each side. Then I'm attaching the yoke. First of all, I'm going to turn the yoke. I'm going to sew it and turn it out, the neckline of the yoke. To turn it out, I'll also attach a button loop at the upper part of the yoke where the neckline is, where I'll fix my buttons. So I'm done sewing. You can see that button loop there. You can see the button loop there. So I'm going to turn it with the lining, placing the yoke. You can see I'm pushing the yoke inside while the lining covers it, and then I will sew. I'm pushing the yoke inside while I place the lining on top. So the yoke will be in between the lining and the fabric. So I'm going to sew it and turn it out the way I did for the front bodice. So after doing it, I'll stitch towards the lining. You can see I'm stitching towards the lining, so it will lay flat there. Then I'll now turn the remaining side of the dress, leaving a space where I'll turn everything out. So I'm done turning it out, and then I'll fix the zipper at the back of the dress. I'm not using straps for this dress. The client says she wants a zipper. So now I'm joining the shoulders together, the front and back shoulders. So I'm placing the fabric to fabric, lining to lining, but then the yoke for the front is just one. I did not double it. It's only the back I doubled. So I placed the shoulder of the yoke to the main fabric of the back. Then I used the lining of the back to cover it. You can see I turned it to cover the front. Look at it. I placed fabric to fabric, then the lining I use it to turn it over and cover the two of them. So the front shoulder now is in between the back bodice and its lining. Now the lining covers both of them, so it can be neat by the time you finish sewing it. See, I'm done sewing it, and it's neat both inside and outside. It's neat. You will not see any stitches outside. That is how to neatly sew shoulders together. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to measure the neck round, because this dress has a neck band. So I'll measure the neck round to use the measurement to cut out my neck band. So I measured about 17 inches here. So I'm going to cut out the neckband using my satin fabric. So I've got the measurements there. So I'm going to cut out my neckband now. I folded the fabric into 4 and then I divided by 17 inches by 6.28. You know, I'm like a full circle. So I cut it out. I measured this round and then I marked it. Then I came down by like 2 inches to get the width of the neckband. Then I'll cut it out. I'll cut out the lining of this same shape. I'll open up one side and then I'll cut out the lining for this same shape. So I've already cut out the lining, and then I'll iron interfacing on both of them and then use the lining to turn it out. So I'm going to attach this neckband now. This is the best way to cut a neckband, so it will lap on the person's neck to not be standing. So I'm going to attach it. They're going to be attaching it right wherever the neck stops. You cut off the excess neckband there. Don't worry, it will still relax on the person's neck. So just attach it and cut off the excess there. And then I'm going to attaching the sleeves now. If you don't know how to draft a basic sleeve pattern, I attached the link on my description box. Please go and watch it. This is a long sleeve. So I'm just making sure that the measurements are correct. I'm shaping the dress as well as the sleeve. I'm attaching the sleeve to the dress before shaping it. So I'm shaping the dress now together with the sleeves. So the dress, look at the final look of the dress, is beautiful. So we added this structured detail on it. If you want to learn how to make the structured detail, there's another video for it. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.